Hi fellows, and welcome to Old Trusty part number 9. And in part number 9 we are going to build the sills. And as you might remember from the previous parts, Old Trusty has no sills left. All what's left is some scrap metal like this one, completely corroded, and it's hard to tell how the sills were actually fitted. I couldn't figure it out, nor do I know the shape of it, the dimensions of it, and that's really a big issue. I can try to find a shape that I think might be right, but then again it may never fit onto the chassis. So I return to the global social media. There is a Facebook group that talks a bit about the U23, which this type of a truck is, and I just posted the question if somebody had some pictures. And within no time, Mark came back to me, and Mark, thank you so much. And he provided me with pictures from his old cabin that he's going to rebuild, but his cabin is more intact than mine. He was also so nice to provide me with a sketch of the dimensions. And now the next thing I have to do is to make a technical drawing out of that, and that's what I'm going to do in a few minutes. That's why I still have a clean shirt on, and I'm not dirty in my face yet. So let's make a technical sketch now, and once I have that done, we will build a template of the inner sill out of hardboard. I've done the top view of the sill, and I've done the outside view. Of course, that will be one piece when you finally put it together. So now let's get on and start building the actual sill in hardboard. Alright, so now it's time to start building the template, and I'm going to build a template of the inner sill in different sections. The top part and then the vertical part. So we'll start at the top part. Now to do that I have 3mm thick hardboard, and that's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to draw on this one now the top part of the sill. So this is the top part for the sill. I've got the cardboard model in place over here. I had to tighten the cabin together, and this is the spanner I made. It's a bar between the back end of the cabin and the front of the cabin, and by just turning that I can actually adjust, you know, how wide the cabin moves open and or in. But I adjusted this one so that the gap along the door is equal from the top to the bottom. I was using the door as a alignment system, and I have put markers on the door over here and there, and you see the door here is really against the bulkhead. There we have like 2mm gap, and over here on this side the gap between the cabin and the door is kind of equal, but the bottom part is about 2mm more wide open, and that's just because the door has to go up a little bit. And you actually see it here. I drew a line on this bend in the metal, and that should align with this bend at the part of the rear cabin itself. And you can see the offset that we have, it's about 2mm, so that's not a big deal. That's just adjusting the hinges on the door, and the door will then move up a bit, and thereby closing this gap and opening up that gap a bit. And the same thing over here. So in essence, this will just work out fine. I don't have to worry about it right now. I know the cabin is spaced right. So now I have the top of the inner sill in place. I have marked it at the support part, and I also marked it in the back with the hole that was drilled on the outriggers. And now I still need to fit it on the chassis to make sure that it still fits on the chassis. Alright, here we go. Now you can see that I have had a couple of lines on this already, because I kept adjusting, and what I do is always use different colors. So my first line was the red one, then I used the white one, and the final one is the blue one. Let's get to the chassis of the truck and see what we need to do there. So here it is. Let me remove this first, and then we'll fit it. I already drilled a hole in it, so I can put a bolt through it and make sure it fits in the hole there. And now I need just to make sure everything is aligned properly over here, and then we should be all set. We've cut off this piece now, and let's fit it again and see if this is now a proper fit or not. Yep, and I think that looks quite good. So now we have a proper fit, and I can finally mark the last hole which we have to drill, and then everything should be properly aligned. But we'll only know when everything is installed. That's always the tricky part to this kind of work. You never know what you're going to end up with, but there's always little surprises. And let's see. Yeah, there it is. So I'm going to drill it, and then we should be good to go. I can just put some pins in the holes. There we go. And that just fits fine. It fits in the front, so that will be the top of the inner sill. I might have to cut off a little piece here. So now I'm going to start working on the side of this sill. And now I need to make this curve. You might remember from the technical drawing that we had this curve along here on this edge, like so. So now I need to cut that off. To make a nice curve, it's handy if you have a little thin piece of your hardboard, and you just place and then put some tape where the distance markers are, and then just, you know, tape it on. That typically works quite well, like so. And then we're just gonna bend it. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's easy to make a nice and smooth curve, as you can see. You know, just tape it in the right spot. Have tape which is thick enough, make sure it holds. And now we have this curve, we can actually mark it off and trace it. This needs a bit more here, so here we go. Right. So I think that this is about the curve I'm going to have on that outer part of the inner sill. So now let's cut this off and see how it fits. The piece we have just cut out of the hardboard, and now we are going to align it and pretend it to be the outer segment of the inner sill. So that should be it. That should be the outer sill. I'm just going to fit it now on the truck and see how it looks like over there. I may just put some reinforcements in the middle because otherwise it's going to flip around too much. Alright guys, this is the sill that we created in hardboard. This is our template. So now let's see if we can fit it. It should fit because I've tried it before a couple of times because I had to make a few small adjustments here and there. That's quite normal. Now, let's see. Okay, and I will just hold it in place for now here. It comes all the way nicely to the top, and you can see that the curve that we created over here smoothly goes into the front of the bulkhead. You also saw it on the truck, so that's exactly what I wanted to get. I'm just gonna clamp this slightly in place so it stays where it's supposed to be. Here we go. Right, and that's it. I just make sure you have to align it here. That looks good. And for the rest, the only thing I had to do was to make sure that the door opening, the width here, was at the right distance so the door would shut properly. And to do that, I actually used this mechanism here. It's a metal bar, but you've seen it before, and I can adjust this here by turning it left or right, and the cabin opens up more or comes closer together. This is really something I had to do because otherwise I couldn't keep it in place. And I will have to do the same thing on the other side. So final welding is only going to be when I have all the sills all around the car in place, when I have the cross member in place, everything pre-positioned, you know, clamped in place, making sure everything is good. Because the last thing you want to happen is that the doors don't shut anymore because you made it too narrow, and that the holes that you have on the sills don't align anymore with the chassis, because then you really have a problem. So now I'm going to build the inner sill out of sheet metal. Now I'm not going to be using 1.5 mil because that was the original thickness of the sill, but I'm going to be using 3 millimeters. It's a lot stronger, but I think the sills are the most important part on this cabin, so I like to make it a bit stronger. Now it's not going to make any difference on the total thickness because the old sill had these brackets underneath, you know, like they were mounted underneath like so, but they are also 1.5 mil. So if I calculate the thickness of the original sill plate plus the bracket, it's 1.5 plus 1.5, that's 3. So that's the total thickness I have now on my sill. I may actually put some enforcement on, you know, corners inside the sill once I'm done with it, but I don't know yet, we'll see. But I think this will be rock solid. So here you have the bottom of the inner sill and the outer side, and you can see how it actually disappears all the way into the corner here of the bulkhead, and that's exactly what I needed to create. So I folded open my template, placed it on the sheet metal, and I kept like 5 millimeters of a rim on the side because that's what I need to fold up afterwards. I didn't make it on the model. And on this side, I need to have 1.5 millimeters. Now, a good trick to do that is use a washer like this. And if that washer is 1.5 centimeter or whatever distance you need, you can just place it on the edge, put your pen, you know, and just roll along like this. This works really well, you know. That's a very good and easy way to do this. This is something I always try to do, make life easy. This is very thick steel, so bending it isn't that easy, and like I said before, it's too wide to put on my bench, so I need to find another way to start bending this. And the way I'm going to do this is by putting a metal bar along this side. I have already cut a groove, and then I will be able to fold it, hopefully upwards. But then again, you never know. So I've given the sill a bend, now it's time to weld it. First I'm going to weld on a rim on the side, and then I will weld inside the bigger bend because I have to reinforce that. So this is the sill, and I'm actually stitching the outer side, and I do it in piece by piece so the metal is not deforming. If I was to weld continuously, then for sure all the metal would deform, and then it's too late and you can't do nothing about it anymore. All right, so we welded up the edge, and now I'm gonna grind it down, and then I do the other side. So guys, Here it is, the sill all welded together, and this is the inner sill. I welded all along the side because that's where I bended it. So that I'm going to cover up now with car sealer. It's kind of a gummy kind of thing, and then we'll paint it. I know in the old days I didn't do it, but I think it's going to be better if I do it. So here we go. And to finish it off, I'm going to use some zinc spray until we do the final painting on the vehicle, so it doesn't start rusting, because it's going to take a while. All right, that should be good enough. It's dried up, and now I have the sill in place, and it's rock solid. It fits perfectly. I'm not going to weld it in yet, therefore I need to wait until I've done the other side and until I have the cross member properly in place, and then I will place the cabin actually on the truck, and then I will weld it when everything is in place. Obviously we still have to make the outer sills, but that will come later. So on this side I will have now to build the outer sill with the door profiles. Now that's going to be a little bit more difficult, but then again the metal will be a lot thinner. It probably is going to be around 1.2 millimeters. So this is a bit of a close-up where you can actually see where the sill meets the bulkhead or the firewall. It's now clamped in place with a clamp because I haven't welded it yet. This is the area where the sill is actually meeting the cross member. So that also we will have to weld together at some moment in time, but not right now. So this is a view from the right hand side rear end of the cabin, and you can see the brand new sill that we created, which is the inner sill. The cross member is over here, and then this is the plate that we renewed in a previous video, one of the early ones. And this is an outside view of where the door is, and then the bulkhead is over here, and you can see the bend or the slope, how that meets the front of the bulkhead. And in the next videos we'll have to create the external shaping of the body panels, the outer sill, and then of course we'll still have to fix the door, but that's probably going to be in part number 15, 16. We'll see when we get there. You never should rush in this kind of work. That's it for this video. We've built the sill based on a template, and this is always a very good technique to do, because then you can fit the template first, and all you need to do afterwards is mimic it in metal. It can take a while, especially with 3mm steel, but anyhow at the end we succeeded. You've seen it, it's on the car, it looks pretty good. So now all I have to do is create a second one like this on the other side. Thank you for viewing, and I hope to see you again in one of our next videos. Bye bye.